Welcome to another episode of The Midwest Artisan. I'm your host, Andy Hinkle, and with me,
And I'm your co-host, Dalton McCleery.
sorry to cut, yeah. So we are both from the Midwest, United States, and we love talking about Laravel, web development, and anything else happening that's fun and interesting. We talk a lot about some of the things we face at work, like interesting concepts, interesting problems, and anything, yeah, like I said, anything else that's happening. So Dalton, how was your week?
My week has been incredibly busy with the project decks that we talked about last time, and I'm happy to say that my like late night workings has gone down. I'm actually getting close, and I feel like I can sleep like a normal human again.
Getting some better
You know,
better sleep. That's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
into a better spot. What about you? How's your week been?
Yeah. It's been slow. It's been really good. Still coming off LaraCon, I feel like, but it has been slower at work. We're just trying to get things aligned. Usually our quarter four or like towards Christmas time, especially with e-commerce, that kind of stuff. It's a bit busier. Now it's just kind of a slower time. It's a good time to kind of look through processes and stuff like that. So I've been doing a lot of
Hmm.
that. Been looking into RailsConf or Rails World, wherever the conference they
So
have.
the Ruby.
Yeah, and then there's an interview that DHH did with Primogen not too long ago, and it really just got me thinking about Rails. And so I was just looking into their ecosystem, just understanding how it works in comparison to Laravel, since I'm just so ingrained in that system. And they had some cool
Hmm.
stuff over that, like Active Record and yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, like I said, it's been slower, but just a good time to do some professional development. Just do a 30,000 foot view and see if we can improve anything. So it's been good.
You're not going to change into like a Rails developer now, are you?
Oh,
You're not going to leave me
I'm
or
partial to
and the
Laravel
Laravel.
now. Yeah,
Okay,
but
okay.
they have some great concepts, and yeah, it's really cool.
To cement your Laravel stuff, I think we should get like a joint tattoo of the Laravel logo. I think we've talked about that a few times.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we have to.
yeah,
I'll come down and
yeah.
visit you, and I'll take you to the tattoo place.
Yeah, I think my scale just being that just a light complexion, I just would not look good with tattoos. But yeah, I think if I had a tattoo, it would be one of my either favorite bands or Laravel because it's really changed my life. And I've been in it for 10 years now, and I've been so thankful coming from where we're just at a theme park being a ride operator. I gotta tell that story sometime, but I used to just be a ride operator, I moved up to management, learned how to build Laravel apps, changed my world. So yeah, you get Laravel
You should.
matching Laravel
You
tattoos.
should. I mean, get one right here. Get you the little Laravel L, and then on this side you could put Metallica or
Yeah,
I even
Metal.
saw
Yeah.
tattoos of people's like Git histories, like that GitHub
Oh,
chart of
yeah.
the little dots. So I've seen people get tattoos of that. I don't know.
Hmm.
Tattoos are on my
Yeah.
brain, and I kind of want a Laravel tattoo.
You ever
I'm
see
gonna come
those like
visit you for Christmas.
that'd be good. You ever see those like ones where it's just like programmers will have it. It's like head, but then at the back of their neck it has like a close tag, like end head.
Oh,
You got your head and
like a
then close tag
detached.
head.
That's
Yeah,
very
or just
oh,
like
that's
a
very
open
clever.
bracket. Yeah, and then it's like you have your head and then close. Yeah, that's
That's
kind of
very
silly,
clever.
but kind of cool, unique, different. So yeah,
I'll
cool
take
man.
you.
So
I'll
did
take
you
you one day. I'll take you.
love that? Yeah. My wife will not approve of this, by the way. So I'm
That's all
sorry,
right.
Lauren,
She
if you're
doesn't have to
listening.
know.
I'm not getting a tattoo. I'm not
Not
getting a
yet,
tattoo. Not
Lauren.
yet. Yeah. So did you see Caleb this morning? He launched Flux. Dude,
Yeah, I was
yeah.
watching that live stream on Twitter.
It was so good. It was like a 3 hour live stream, completely unfiltered. It was just good to see
There's a couple of
those
spicy
three
takes.
those three in there. Aaron was at Starbucks because his power went out. So
And
I
Starbucks
felt,
power was out.
yep. Which they're making the joke about. Doesn't Texas have bad power problems? So, remember like the ice storm. So
Yeah.
it was really cool to see that launch and with Caleb's all of his hard work, he changed his pricing model to kind of fit either
Yes.
one or unlimited projects, and I think it's a really good fit. Um, I was a little nervous about posting it. I shared it with like a few Telegram groups because not a lot of people were talking about it yet, and I was like, "You guys remember Flex? Check this out. He changed it now. It's released. Come check it out." So I shared on Telegram group. groups. And then I was like, should I share it on Reddit? Because I remember the last time that was posted on Reddit. So full disclosure, I've shared this on a show before, but I am unfortunately a moderator on the Laravel subreddit. And so this is something I picked up a couple of years ago and hoping to hoping to clean it up. And I feel like we have cleaned up the place quite a bit, but it's just unbelievably toxic when you can be more of an anonymous figure on a place like Reddit. But anywho, it was very toxic the first time it was posted. I'm like, maybe this will change it. It is, and it's not as bad this time. There are a few folks like, oh my gosh, money! I have to use that to use this thing. But what people don't realize is that just by it's like what $250 for unlimited projects. That's like 1 or 2 hours of my time as a developer, and you have unlimited projects, and it's forever. It's like you pay for it once, and it's forever. And so then that just saves so much time just by you don't have to write these components over and over, and it's professionally written by the Livewire maintainer himself, which is fantastic. If Livewire updates, I know that's up to speed. I don't have to update all these like little components that I have written over the years. I just do a composer update. And so it's a no-brainer for me. But some other people are like, money? and Or they say it's a Tailwind UI ripoff. But overall, I remember last time I was at Laracon and I was constantly, I get a notification on my phone if like somebody reports something, to go check it out. And I've only gotten a couple today, but Laracon, man, it was just like blowing up. People are so unbelievably toxic. But this morning, it hasn't been too bad. I say it's not too bad. We've only banned 3 people. And so,
only 3.
But it was just, people are just like, oh, this is just a money grab. We've already warned them before. On different stuff, like, we don't want you here. And so just like take your toxicity somewhere else. Take it to the PHP subreddit. But
yeah.
all right, but yeah. Love Flux. Very excited about it. I want to get your take. You watched the live stream. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, as someone who's about to launch a paid product of not of this nature, but a paid helper package essentially. I mean, I don't really have a problem spending a couple $100 if it's gonna save me, like legit save me hours of my time. Like all about just trying to like, especially if it's something freelance related or not agency related. If it's gonna save me an hour, that's an hour that I don't have to spend building myself. And then now I've got to write tests for it, and now I gotta make sure that doesn't break, and it's just like this nasty spot. So I don't have a problem with the pricing. I don't have a problem with them charging stuff like I think he said in that live stream that people were saying, "Oh yeah, I would pay you $500 to have a one-time unlimited projects." And it looks like that's what he has. It's just on like a launch discount for $280. But I mean, even then, $280 is like 2 hours of my time. I'd happily spend that money to never have to worry about any of that. But yeah, I don't see the hate for it. I think Caleb Porzio's proven himself to be a good developer. Like you're not getting crap in there, and I don't see the Tailwind like competition. Like you could use Tailwind to make this stuff look better, but at the end of the day, this is like it is a component library. There's like 700 of them available. You take your pick. There's a couple free ones, but I'd rather pay the money to get one from a creator that I know does good work and will support it than some random one that I found off the internet that doesn't do half the things that this one does. Like all of the right clicks and the drop downs and making sure that auto resizing text boxes and stuff like that. Like if he's thought about it, then I don't have to think about it. Sort of an easy sell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been working with some of our executive partners and at our agency, and right now we just don't. It's one of those things of like, we'd like to include it, but it'll be on a greenfield project. Like I mentioned, we don't have a lot of those going on right now. I was telling them, and I actually, after I wrote it, I messaged Caleb that he should be kind of pushing this a little bit further. One thing that's not talked about enough, and that's the accessibility benefits. So all of these are accessible by default. He's really thought about the accessibility sides of being able to keyboard navigate through these things. and he's been working with other people to make sure that they're accessible. And so I think by hitting that more, like at least with the business, because it's really kind of a hard sell to non-technical people. Like there are executives are kind of technical, but it's like kind of a hard sell. Like, hey, we had this component UI library wanting to purchase, and it's kind of it's kind of a weird thing. And so I think by Tailwind UI was we that was that was kind of tricky for me to sell them. Yeah, but I had to sell them
Oh,
on that
really?
too. I was like, well, it's a component UI library, and it cuts out some work for us. And so, but then it's kind of the same thing. Well, it's a component UI library, and then like, well, isn't Tailwind a component UI library? I was like, yeah, this one's different, but then for Livewire, which yeah, so there's a whole thing. But then the part I was like, these are accessible ready components, and then that's
Hmm.
just like so in our industry right now, we're seeing a lot. This hasn't happened to us, but we see it quite often of where companies are getting sued for not being accessible on the website. So this is really big for a lot of company owners. And so I was telling Caleb, I was like, man, you should really push that a little bit more. Just like
Hmm.
somewhere, just make it a little bit more flashy about accessible components somewhere in the wording, because I feel like for non-technical people, that's what they like to hear. And so yeah, but it's yeah, it's really, I'm really excited for Caleb. He kind of hinted at some of the numbers. He seems to be doing pretty well on so far on some of the release numbers. So
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I kind of even sympathize with him that what did he say in the live stream? It was like last night, or like the night before, that he was just updating his like terms and service or his privacy policy.
yeah.
That's literally what I'm doing right now. Like I
Hmm.
feel that 100%. Like that's the last thing on my list is to do a terms and
In the live stream, he was talking about with Ian. He was talking about the whole thing. So Ian was like very legalistic of like,
yes.
we need to you need to stick by the rules, by the laws, and it's kind of tricky to get like developer seats if you're like going to like Facebook or just a large company and say, hey, we need 300 seats. It's kind of difficult to organize those about the legality behind it. It's just like, should you just buy a master seat and then everyone uses
Hmm.
that same login? Because it's just easier to share that login. And Caleb kind of whispered, that's what most people do. And so, but it just kind of a weird thing that it's kind of get people to sign off on is the whole seat selling. It's kind of difficult, and pricing is always just difficult. But yeah, it's just
Hmm.
kind of tricky, like selling seats, and then if somebody leaves, and then you have to make sure you revoke that license and stuff. So I was thinking it'd be kind of a cool product to see of like, there might be already something out there, but there might be a cool product to see like kind of a license management across apps. Like you can revoke, like if somebody leaves your company or somebody's joining in, you could just click a button and it goes across all of your stuff and says, oh, they're licensed for Google Suite, for Photoshop, Adobe. All that is just like we took care of it, because I know I'm sure that for business owners and people, that probably takes a good, at least a couple hours to make sure you go through it, and you have to create like you have to look through, make sure and verify everything.
That's not a bad idea. That kind of sounds like what some of those like money apps, like I don't want
Mm,
to name drop anything, but they're like, oh, we automatically cancel Disney Plus because you
mm.
haven't like logged in a month or something like that.
That's cool.
It
Yeah,
sounds very reminiscent of something of that nature. But
yeah.
yeah, I think a good like agency push for Flux would be Ryan Caleb's, especially for that accessibility. Like Andy was saying, I mean, it's insane the amount of like work you have to do to make something accessible. I think he released a video on Twitter of him using something or going through all of the docs just using a keyboard and no mouse,
Hmm.
which is really hard to do and it takes time. So again, $280 right now, launch discount to save you all of that time. Buy it, please.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And Caleb, can we have a referral bonus? Thank you.
Yeah, Ian was like, use code Ian. And so I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
should I try that? Should I see if that works? But
Hey,
obviously, yeah.
I'm gonna throw it right in.
I'm really curious what, in the beginning, they're having some stream issues because Caleb wanted it to be on his Twitter, and Ian was just like, give me your password. And so he handed to a password, and apparently the password's hilarious. He's just like, I made it when I was a teenager or something. So good old password sharing is always
Uh-oh.
really good. But it was such an entertaining live stream, just like a good
Yeah.
solid 3 hours. Just it was a good way to start the week here. So
I'll say it again that if Caleb, and no offense to Ian, but if Caleb and Aaron made a podcast together, I would watch it every single week. I
yeah,
would watch it on YouTube, then restream it again on Spotify. You just tell me where to listen to it. Just
Yeah,
get
and then
no
when they're
fancy.
all three together, it's always gold. Yeah.
Yeah, you always get Papa Ian, and then the two sort of chaotic left and chaotic right.
Yeah. They like
It was
to,
really
yeah, it's
entertaining
good.
to watch.
So, yeah. So I wanted to talk about local API mocking and testing. And this has come about more and more recently. There was a tweet recently by Jason Beggs, and which now he works at Laravel. And well, he also listens to the show, or at least he listened to one episode and he reached out and he gave me some tips on A/B testing. So thank you for that, Jason. But he tweeted that for Laravel Cloud, that they have been using these fake drivers and like a fake database driver. And so there was some conversation that got started about like when you fake to these services, when you're developing local and you click like start, you click a button to like start something up, and if it has to connect to a service, you have to wait for that thing to spin up and ready,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that can take many minutes, or in the sense of Laravel Cloud, 60 seconds or less, but that might be too much. For a developer, I'm like, well, here we go, I have to wait till this thing spins up. But so what they're doing is that they are faking those responses. I imagine they're like giving a fake delay of like 3 seconds and then returning a JSON response of what they expect it would look like or something to that effect. This got me to thinking I worked on this many months ago. I was dealing with the same thing or something kind of similar. I was working on an app where people can register warranties on a product. Like you buy a product in a store or whatever, you go online, register your warranties. So it's a Laravel app, and then when you register the warranty, it goes to their like internal third party API and checks in with them and just hey, this person with this email address registered. Here's the information, right? And just comes back and gives you thumbs up. But when checking with that API, sometimes it can be slow. It's their own internal API. But that's just one example. But there's been other times too where I've been wanting to integrate with Stripe or some just third party of getting information. It would just take a while. You would developing locally, just trying to when you're trying to push through a feature, like, well, I have to wait for this thing to actually connect to the service. So what I did was I mocked out an API of when you're on local, when you hit this, it like has a little like half-second delay, then you get the JSON response back, just to kind of mock that response or fake out that response back. It's kind of scary because you're not actually touching that API, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So am I making sense? Am
Mm-hmm.
I catching what I'm throwing so far?
Yep, I'm catching
And so,
everything. I got it.
okay. And so I've been doing this just with a lot of things lately, and it's been so nice of just mocking it out. But it was a little scary. Like if that schema ever changes or those responses ever changes, I have heavy logging behind. I'll throw exceptions if it's not the proper, keys and format if we're missing a key. But mocking out those responses is such a unique concept, and I feel like I haven't really heard anyone talking about it except for in that tweet. And then like I said, I developed this many months ago, right before Laracon. Jacob Bennett and Michael Dorinda, they have a podcast. It's called North Meets South. Great show, by the way. I highly recommend listening to that. They were talking about it, about how similar thing. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, so I'm not crazy with this, because when I did it, I thought about sharing about how I had imposter syndrome. Like, oh, this is kind of stupid. Like maybe this is a bad idea, because there are pros and cons, and that's what I want to talk about. I get your take on some of the pros and cons here in a minute. But yeah,
Yeah.
they started talking about it on the show, and they're like talking about how they do it, and then they're like, we need to do a show on this. And so I'm really excited to listen to the show. Like when they do, they're going to talk with Jason Beggs, which he'll talk about how they mock their API responses. But maybe, yeah, I'm curious. Like maybe this could be a Laravel package. It's kind of tricky, right? Maybe it can be into core, but then there's pros
Mm-hmm.
and cons, and I'd like to talk with you about that. Like, there's a lot of pros and cons to this. And recently, I was on a flight, and I was developing a feature, and I reloaded the page, and it hits a third-party API, and of course, I can't get it on the plane. But in my head, I was thinking, if I fake that, it would be a lot easier, and I was like, I don't have to worry about it, and I would continue down my path. Instead, now I have to go like mock this thing out just to see if it works. So I was like, or I could just wait till I get off the. But besides the point, it was just one of those things where it got me thinking, like, we should do this more, mocking out. So there's pros and cons, like I said. you're actually faking the response. But Pro, you don't have to worry about it locally. And then also when you're writing your tests, you don't have to write the HTTP fake again. You just, the one time you wrote it, it's there, because when your test suite hits it, it's going to go to that container and,
Mhm.
oh, it's faked out over here.
Mhm.
It is scary, right? Because even the Laravel docs say to actually hit the Stripe sandbox API, but sometimes depending on the platform, we don't have those sandbox APIs. So curious of your take here so far. Giving you a lot, so apologize if you got anything, haven't got to talk yet.
That was actually what I was going to bring up is Stripe. Because I
Okay.
remember it was, you know, it's been several years ago. We were developing a site that had a lot of algorithmic stuff. Like you could put in your preferences, and this algorithm would spit out a Stripe product that would fit your preferences.
Mm.
The problem is the algorithm had like a possible of 200 to 300 outputs, like there were 200, 300 products that you could possibly get. And so when we wrote tests for it, we basically creating the product in Stripe, mocking all of the preferences and stuff to make sure that you return that specific product from Stripe. And of course, our test suite, which it's not mocked now, it takes like 15 minutes to run. And like 200,
Mm.
300 of those tests are creating products, running the test, and then deleting the product off Stripe. It
Mm.
takes
Mm.
forever. It was also a nightmare to write those tests for that reason. I wish I should have mocked it, but again, like the Stripe cashier documents or documentation says, we recommend you just hit the sandbox stuff. Like I don't really need all of the Stripe goodness. I just need to know, hey, does this product ID match the one that I'm expecting it to match? So in that instance, I would 100% mock literally everything. I think our test suite would go from 15 minutes to like 3, which is not a bad idea. I might actually make it easy to do that. But um, most of like the popular APIs that I use have documentation that has like an output example. Like here's a
Mm.
response that you can expect from this. So I think if the API that you're using is going to have that kind of documentation, I don't see why
Mm.
you wouldn't sort of mock it, especially while you're building out a page or just trying to say, oh, let me get my happy path. And then once I get my happy path, maybe there's an error that happens along the way and I get a different response. I can just mock that response. And now it's much easier to write the test. So I'm kind of all for this. I don't see very many
Yeah.
negatives. Like what kind of cons, what cons are you thinking of for that could happen?
Yeah. If the schema changes, that's kind of scary. It causes you as a developer to write a ton of exception handling, or of like, if
Mm-hmm.
anything goes wrong, just throw an exception, because then you look in a Sentry and find out, oh, this API, I'm not getting the right thing. Then as a developer, that's where my mindset is, like, it's hard to debug that. So the schema changed, right? And then but my local copy is set up to mock everything, and so then I have to like somehow turn that off and then actually hit the API to see what the actual response is. It's super tricky to, like, yeah, I have to turn it off and turn it back on again just to figure out what the schema change is. And those don't happen too often, but it's usually with kind of crappier services. And as a developer, it's that when you get that API and hitting it for the first time, it's just so scary. In some ways, it's just like, when you have the documentation in front of you, like, hey, hit this API, and then it's like, in my head, I'm like, okay, should I go ahead and fake this, or should I go ahead and just make sure it works first? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure it works first. Okay, now that it's working, I'm gonna go ahead and fake it. But then it's like, well, it's in production, I need to test it again. But yeah, it just, as a developer, the mindset for me is, if I need to continue development on it, maybe there's a new, or perhaps I didn't get the mock correct, and it's like, it's getting something else, like, between like a
Mm-hmm.
get and a post request. That can be kind of tricky. Maybe you didn't code the mock right. And then when it's in production, the worst thing is when it's finally in production, it's like, you get the wrong thing than the documentation says, or something. So, because my basic thing is, I'm trying to cut out work as far as a developer experience needed, and I'm not sure if that kind of meshes well. But then something, when you're working on a product like Laravel Cloud, when seconds matter and you're spending 30 seconds waiting on this thing to compile, also, you're probably, since they're working with AWS, you're probably spending money just to turn this thing off and on. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just where my mind goes, but it is kind of nice in certain situations. I feel like it's something that can be utilized more, and I'd like to see maybe a package out of it or something. So, one thing I wanted to touch on was actual implementation, and because there's so many ways you can do it, if I were to do it like the way I do it today is just through a service container of like when the Laravel app boots up, immediately hits like HTTP prevent stray requests, just for local. But anytime I have like the conditional like if it's not production, do this. That just smells so
Yeah,
weird.
it always smells bad.
So yeah, there's just some weird abstractions I put in there that just didn't
Mm.
feel right, and I think that's where my when I originally wrote this, my imposter syndrome set it. I'm like, ugh, like it just smells wrong. The like if it's not production, do this. But then again, you do it in like at Blade, like when you're including like analytics platform, you don't want to run it in
Mm.
production, so you just write the app production, and so I guess it's all right. So, but anywho, yeah, I'm
There's
excited
some
to
weird
hear
gray
more.
area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there's at least a good package here. As
Mm-hmm.
you were talking,
Yeah.
I mean, hitting the production API or my sandbox API first time is like, oh, okay, everything works. This is what I'm going to get. I can sort of build my mock off of this, sort of response. Um, and I thought of past PHP, how they do their snapshot testing. So I wonder if there's like a package that sort of snapshots that
Ooh.
first,
Oh
like
man.
API response, and then sort of just caches it, and then the next few like actual calls will just return that cache response
Oh man,
instead
you
of
got
hitting
my
the
wheels
API.
turning. Like,
All
yeah.
right, do we
Ooh,
need
that's a
to
good
stop
one.
recording so you can so you can start coding?
Might hack
I
on
think
something.
there's definitely something here that I think can fit that sort of middle ground of, oh, you should always try to hit the API as much as you can, just because. And I don't want to hit it
Mm,
every single time. Like that's I'm wasting time at that point or wasting resources. So yeah, if there's a way to just sort of like, hey, well, take a snapshot of this API request and cache it for today. I'm gonna work on this
right.
feature today. I'm gonna be hitting this several times. I'm sort of building out a dashboard, and I need to like get billing information so I can put a little widget of saying, your next payment's at this date. It's going to be this much, and now I have to call Stripe every single time for that. And then I'm sort of building my UI out. Maybe just go ahead and snapshot that and cache it, so I don't have to call it 700 times today while I'm building this page out.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's a lot easier than trying to build the mock yourself. And then
Yeah.
again, I'm thinking of past PHP how they do their snapshot. You
Dude.
just sort of run a command that's like, hey, take re-snapshot, delete the cache, re-snapshot for me.
Mm. You got my wheels really turning because now I'm thinking about factories. Like, if you can take a snapshot, right, and
Oh,
the response comes back and it's like,
yeah.
hey, there's an integer here, a number. Would you like that to be a fake, factory? Oh man. So my wheels are turning now. Like, should this
So
be
see,
kind
there's
of including the Laravel factory pattern where it's including all these fake things from Laravel factory? There's a lot of potential here.
I
And
think there's something.
yeah.
I think you can get something for everybody at least. Or hey,
Mm-hmm.
put a config value of I'm gonna snapshot this for a week, or I'm gonna use this factory, and hey, here's the factory class. And now you can do product colon factory create, and that'll get a snapshot or call the API and save that somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Man, so many great ideas. Yeah. Got my
Write
wheels
that down.
turning. I love it. Yeah.
Write that down.
Yeah. Excited to hear that from North meets South. I'll see what they, I think that show is going to come up and I'll probably reach out to Jake about this like idea or just maybe even Jason too about this idea of maybe utilizing some factory patterns. And Nuno in Jason's tweet, Jason Beggs, his tweet, he mentioned Nuno that he originally or he wrote this feature, he did a lot of work into it. So you mentioned snapshot testing. He wrote that in past. So maybe there's some potential there. Maybe the Laravel team has something in store, and so it's such a unique concept that can be utilized more. And I'm sure he's in the middle of cloud, and he probably sees this too of being a possible thing. So yeah, I think it'll be really good for the community.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunities for third party APIs not being or taking time. Not
Hmm.
that most of them do, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
There's potential.
yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, so well, not sure how to transition here, but I did want to talk about Aaron Francis' new Postgres course, and we're pretty stoked about that. It just being able to learn Postgres, and it's coming at a perfect time. I feel like just with Laravel Cloud saying they're going to use
Mhm.
Postgres by default. You
By
can
default.
bring your own driver if you want to, but that is what they're going to have as default, and it's very exciting stuff. We talked about the show on the show before with pros and cons of Postgres, but the trailer was incredible.
That's that's what I thought. I was like, oh, how did Aaron does it? I mean, don't get me wrong, Aaron's great. I was like, I don't see how Aaron was like, this is like cinematic and like
Yeah,
legit. You know what I mean? Like if I tried to make that, it'd be on my iPhone, with,
you got
cats and
yeah,
stuff. You know what I mean? Like that was nice.
yeah.
I
It gave
watched
you
it probably
goosebumps.
twice.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, his do you know his office? I don't know if you realize, but it's like in an apartment building where people are living. Did you see that? But so he mentioned on his show before, like in a co-working space, it was just too expensive, so he found so he started working with apartments and got a good deal. And so, which is actually at his previous employer, I think that's where he first set it up. It was really cool just by seeing that, and if that's just the trailer, I can only imagine how great the content is. I immediately like shared it with all of my coworkers. I'm like, guys,
Hmm.
like you guys want to learn Postgres, and a lot of people are excited. So we're definitely gonna buy that course, and I'm probably gonna be a day one. I mean, depending on how if I can, I'm probably gonna watch it as soon as I can. So I'm very excited for
Yeah, go pull an all nighter, binge it all.
it.
You'll be a Postgres master
Yeah.
by the morning, thanks to
Yeah,
Aaron
it's exciting.
Francis.
And Postgres, yeah, Postgres is just because it's been such a big topic in Laravel. Just a few months ago, it was SQLite, just by with testing, and
Hmm.
well, it's always been SQLite's been always kind of the king in testing, but now it's Pinkery is running with SQLite, so it's just
Yeah,
it's kind of it's just so cool to see Laravel expanding more than just MySQL. If you look at any surveys, it's just like MySQL is number one, and now it's kind of neat seeing all these other database providers. Jess Archer talked about ClickHouse at Laracon, but seeing all these different providers and services for data collecting and just how much we're really just stretching and just kind of feeling out these other services to see if it works for Laravel developers. So it's really cool.
yeah. You can never go wrong with too many. Well, you can go wrong with too many options, but options is
Yeah.
great. And I feel like MySQL has just been the de facto. Now
Mm-hmm.
that sort of Postgres is poking its head out. I like some options. I even had the option to sort of, uh, well, I'll tell you about it in a sec when we talk about DigitalOcean and sort of that MySQL versus Postgres. I picked MySQL, but I really wanted to pick Postgres, but
Mm.
I don't know enough about it yet. I'm gonna need a course to help me to walk me through
Yeah.
doing it before I commit to like a whole production environment to it. So
Yeah.
I am really hoping that our agency buys it
Oh, yeah.
because I'm going to pull up an all nighter on that thing. I'm especially if it's going to be as high quality as the trailer from Aaron Francis. Sign me
Mm.
up.
The you mentioned that there's having lots of options and stuff like that, but what I like most is like because there's been other platforms I've been on, other frameworks and languages where they're like you can use this or use this or use this. Laravel's like here's what we're going to use by default, but if you want to do something different, totally cool, you know. And so and here's all these different great options, and so I love that they're being diverse but also direct into what they recommend. So it's pretty cool.
Aaron Francis could not have timed that Postgres announcement course anyway.
Oh,
He had to have known, right?
just
He's got insider
oh
information.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah, oh
Laravel
yeah.
Cloud is going to come with Postgres by default, and I could see just Aaron Francis just writing Postgres course, emailing somebody to buy the domain for for his core.
He is the king of databases. You know, he worked at the database provider company that we will not speak of, for doing that for a while, and then he did SQLite course, and so he's just so good at databases and teaching people how they work, and so couldn't pick a better person to learn from. So for sure. And honestly, if he'd like picked anything, I would I just like I'm a huge fan of Aaron of like just anything he does it really well.
Aaron, so if you ever make a course on like C sharp or something like that,
Oh yeah.
I guess we're going to buy it just by
So
default. I'll learn.
Okay, so question for you. If, okay, Aaron does a course that's not about databases, and what would be your top pick of like if you reached out over Twitter and said, "Hey guys, want to do something different from databases," what would you tell them?
If I could pick anything, and I know that they do a show called Mostly Technical, so I want to pick something that's sort of not technical. I want to know how they shot and filmed and how he sort of organizes video production.
Some more
Because if his forges
philosophical,
look
yeah,
great, his trailers
or
look great,
background. Hmm.
how are you organizing that? Do you have a shot list? I want to know like video production.
Yeah,
If I had to
yeah,
pick
that'd be
anything,
yeah.
um,
Yeah, kind of like Jack McDade style, where Jack McDade did a radical design course. He talks about how he does design. I would love to see Aaron like do a course on like how he works, how what his thought process on what how he likes to bring things to market. He has some like really good Twitter hacks. He's really good on Twitter, like figuring
yeah,
out how to work a list on or how to basically how to run a SaaS would be a good I feel like a good course, like how to yeah fully develop a SaaS. And if it was more of a technical side, I think I would just love to hear something of maybe another like Laracast course or something that he could do. I feel like maybe he's done some Laracast course, I believe he, but just something to that effect of anything he does is just top notch. So
what happens when you're just so likable?
yeah, yeah, it's
That's
good
the other
human.
topic. Everyone, tell me how to be so likable because I don't like talking to people. I don't like social interactions. Tell me how to be likable and how
Yeah,
do you set up your shots because I want to do that.
yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah, it's all just about being a good human and being friendly. So and
That's
being
true, and
what
he
does he
is a
say?
great
Being
human.
folksy, being folksy.
We probably have a Midwest saying for being folksy around here, but it's probably
Yeah,
derogatory,
right. Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, yeah, you mentioned DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean announced they're partnering with Laravel, and when I saw it, I went to their website, like to their blog, to see if they had a blog post because it was just like a tweet, and they mentioned Forge in
Yeah,
there, and I thought
that's
that was
it.
like okay, that's pretty cool. And then I went to the website to the blog, like oh maybe they're announcing like a big partnership of some effect. I didn't see anything. So I was like, okay, what does this mean? And I was like, I don't know if it's easier connection in Forge or because they did specifically mention Forge, but did you see any of this?
I did, and it's weird, sort of like they just sort of like just tweeted it out in the ether. I guess trying to ride some
Mm-hmm.
of the coattails of the 57 million, funding that
Mm-hmm.
Laravel got. DigitalOcean like, oh hey, by the way, we work better with Forge now.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something that they were like, yeah, it's faster now. Whenever you deploy or whenever you create a server or a site or a droplet, I guess is what they call it, droplet from
Right.
Forge to DigitalOcean, it's supposed to be faster. And my Project X is coming up, so I was like, well, Cloud's not available yet, so I'm gonna on Forge for now. So I guess I want to try out this, see how fast it is. And ironically, I tested this for our agency. We try to have some backup sites just in case a site goes down, and we use DigitalOcean and Forge to sort of, hey, we'll just spin up this site real quick. And actually did some testing on how long it takes to build, from cold, like a full server. And I think it's like 15 minutes, 17
Mm-hmm.
minutes, something like that. I wish I would have tested it this time when I set it up because it is noticeably faster this time. I don't know sort of what they did or how they did it. I felt like I was ready in like 7 minutes. Like from,
Wow.
oh, here's my new DigitalOcean account,
Mm-hmm.
went to Forge, create a server, click it. It was like 5 or 6 minutes, and I was putting in my details for my site.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did that. I mean, it's just SSHing into that server, I assume, and running some setup commands. But it is faster. I don't know if it's like, oh, hey, Laravel Cloud, less than a minute. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
fast, but it is faster. I don't know what else is different about it, but I was kind of happy about it. Like, hey, I'll take
Mm-hmm.
faster stuff. Again, going back to, I don't want to waste my time. If I have to sit here for 20 minutes while you provision a server for me, then I'll go do something else, I guess. But yeah, it was less than 10 minutes for sure.
Something I've been thinking about is if this partnership in some ways means, like you mentioned, faster service. Because with the droplets, I don't know if they have something where they partnered with Laravel, how they have them on demand and ready, which would be kind of a cool concept. So think of like when you pull in your DigitalOcean details and you provide what kind of server you want, and they just have all these ones that they have like maybe 10 boxes that are just, or droplets that are preloaded. And so when you
Hmm.
select all these options, you hit save, and that partnership was like, okay, this customer wants this droplet, this type of droplet. We got one ready to go, and that's what could be in. It's just all set up and ready to roll. That's kind of an interesting concept. I believe that's somewhat of what Laravel Cloud is sort of going into. Like they're going to have these
Hmm.
things ready to go for you. But obviously, it's an AWS, a whole different ecosystem, etc. But that's kind of where my headspace was going. And so
That's
when
a
you
good
said
thought.
that, maybe it's faster than that, but it could just be Forge enhancements too, since they added 20 employees. It could be something like that.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah,
sounds like a great idea actually, because I think there's only like 4 or 5 options of server
yeah,
configurations you
mm,
can pick in Forge. So like I will just optimize for these five, these 5 options. Say, hey, I want a full server. Okay, well, sort of here's like hey, going back to that snapshot, here's like a snapshot of a server that's pretty much already ready. Over here, run the setup commands faster. I was trying
yeah.
to find a tweet, and it said it's quote unquote 50% faster. I don't know if it's,
Hmm.
well, I guess by my numbers, if it's 15 minutes and it's now 7 minutes, it is 50.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
It'd be really,
I don't know how they did it.
yeah, it's like, yeah, and you mentioned working here at Grayling, our agency. We have, we've been in situations where we use AWS or we use a different provider, and the client is interested in having a quick backup solution or something ready.
Mm-hmm.
We've invested a lot of time and effort into that. But if we can now partner with DigitalOcean and say, hey, we just have it ready to go and have these droplets right at, go at just a click of a button and it's there. That sounds so nice, and it sounds like maybe that's where the partnership is going. Like I said, they probably the biggest thing with the DigitalOcean and their droplets is the size. So I imagine it's probably like maybe the lowest size or second to lowest or something. And then what depending on what size they build, maybe they just resize it and then get handed over. And because I feel like that's where it can there are options that can be wildly crazy is like when you start changing all the different sizes and expensive as well. But it's really neat. Now, I feel like maybe they can do this more with some other providers, but it's really cool to see DigitalOcean kind of step up and do that. And I feel like anyone that works with Forge, anyone's like, what should I use? And I tell everyone DigitalOcean, you'll have no issues. Um, I do some stuff on the side. I don't even really make anything from it, just for like my church and then just for people. And I put them on DigitalOcean, and it's been probably 10 years now. I've never had a problem ever. There's been like maybe once in a thing, and it was because of an upgrade or something, but purely entirely my fault. But as far as like downtime from a provider, it rarely ever happens with DigitalOcean. So yeah, they're
Yeah,
great to work with.
I mean, we have we used to have like 3 or 4 hosting providers that we used at our agency, and now we've sort of
Oh
narrowed it down
yeah,
to just 3. And no offense to the other ones, I'm not going to name drop them or anything, but
yeah.
we have like an uptime channel in Slack, so whenever a site goes down, it'll post a message there. And I don't think in the last like 3 or 4 years that we've been using Forge, I don't think I've seen a message from any of
Nothing.
those sites. It's pretty much
Yeah,
all the other sites
yeah.
that are
All
hosted
the other
in
services.
blank hosting provider here. They go down quite a
Yeah,
lot, and their service
right.
isn't very, or not service, their supports. We pay for support
Hmm.
a lot.
Yeah, it's great not to worry about servers. Yeah, and that one you're talking about, yeah, working with them was just a complete nightmare. And now anything, I feel like I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like with all our apps now, they're either on DigitalOcean or they're on AWS, either one or the other. And so, are you
Yeah,
feeling that way too? I mean,
I
I haven't the other provider, I haven't worked with them in years, so
Man,
it's
consider
been kind of
yourself
nice.
lucky.
Okay, okay,
I still
maybe
have some
yeah, yeah.
sites that I can't migrate. They're already built.
Okay,
Just I can't migrate them over. Um,
yeah,
I think
but if
so. Yeah, most of them are on Forge now. Other than like our WordPress sites are on WordPress Engine.
yeah.
My domain dropped them. They're
Oh man,
fine.
yeah. WordPress engine has some drama going on.
Oh,
Did you read that? The creator,
try not
he's
to
like,
anything with
okay,
WordPress.
yeah. I'm not gonna get too off topic, but the creator of WordPress, or he was like one of the founding guys. He like came out and like dogged on WP Engine and said that they're just all for profit and not for WordPress, and that they haven't been doing anything for WordPress, and it's been a hot topic past couple of days. So I'm like, shoot.
Didn't hear about
It's
this.
hard. Yeah, but he also runs his own kind of hosting thing, so I can kind of see it from that angle. But yeah, it was kind of some a big hot take, and he did it at a
Hmm.
conference. He like did it on stage,
Oh,
called them
12
out.
people.
It was wild. But anyway,
Ooh,
yeah,
spicy.
yeah, read up on it. Yeah,
I know
you
that.
can Google it. If you Google it, it's
Hmm.
everywhere. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
DigitalOcean, man, they powerhouse. They're great to work with.
Plus one.
But honestly, when cloud comes out, I just like I said, the
Yeah.
less we have to worry about servers. Like we use
Mhm.
DigitalOcean right now or AWS. If AWS is down, the entire internet's down. So if we have if when that client is down, which only happened once in the and all I can remember, and it was actually I think it was early this year when AWS they had a lot of services go down, and the whole internet was practically having issues, and it was all over the news. And so, but and DigitalOcean's been so great to us, knock on wood. And so, yeah,
Cool.
highly recommend them.
Yep.
Cool, man. So good to see that partnership. So last thing I want to talk about was the foodie battle. Did you see that? How awesome that was?
And yeah, you sent it. You sent it to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
watch this right now. I was like, okay. And I did. And
Yeah.
it's insanity what they were able to do that fast. Maybe you'll do a better job of explaining what it's supposed to be because
Yeah.
I don't know
Just
anything about these guys.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk yeah, so because we're not getting any context here. So this is a great great content, right? Yeah, so
Read our
there's this
minds.
thing.
This is what we're talking about.
There's a YouTube channel and it's called the Web Dev Challenge, IRL or just Web Dev Challenge. And so it's fairly new. It started 2 months ago, and they built like a chatbot. It was really cool. So what they do is they bring in all these developers from different companies. They're mostly I would say exclusively actually in the JavaScript space.
A
They're
lot of
writing
JavaScript.
in yeah, they're writing Next or Next and just different React apps and stuff when they do these demos. But they'll bring in people from this most recent one. They brought in somebody from Vercel, a developer, and maybe a freelancer that's well known or something. But they do a challenge of building the best app, and it's just like just like it's so neat of how they come together and do this. And they do it out of Portland, so they're all in person. They have 5 different episodes, I think, and the most recent episode was build an app to help the local food scene. And so there are 4 developers. They all build an app. And there's a guy, I just kind of briefly mentioned him, like when he was actually like talking about people from Vercel. He is one of the design engineers at Vercel. His name is John Famous. So it's Phamous. That's a killer last name, by the way. If
For
that
real.
really is his name, yeah. Or it's Famous, maybe like Famous. I don't know, but anyway, I'm just gonna say famous because that's pretty
That's
sick.
the Midwest. That's the Midwest
Yeah,
pronunciation right there.
but he did an app, and it was like he built it like 4 different games. Like you could spin your phone around.
Hmm.
Like it was all mobile apps. You can use number of times you rotate your phone. But the idea was that this is in Portland, and so they have all these APIs look up like Google Places and look up all the bring in all these locations, and the guy would they would have like the app that he had, everyone would join. Like you would have 4 different mobile phones they would join, and you would spin your phone around, and then the winner would pick the restaurant. And or there was other ones like an Oregon Trails. Another developer, she wrote like an
Hmm.
Oregon Trail,
Hmm.
which got me to thinking like Dalton. This is when I sent it to you. I was like, Dalton, you got to
Hmm.
see this. So when several years ago, when Dalton and I first met, we were working at a different company together, and both of us were just like, we need something different. And so we were kind of teaming up just for both of us to get a new job or something different. And so we're like, we actually both got interviews at the same place. And we're thinking like, all of the work we had, because they wanted to see something we did. They said it would be highly recommended.
Hmm.
And we're like, what could we build that would be fun? And so we built an app. It was a Laravel app, and we did it in all the local food locations. You remember that?
Hmm.
and it was called QuizKnows, which
Please
QuizKnows used to
know.
be like a sub place. Do they have QuizKnows here? Like you know what I'm talking about, right? Or is that
I,
okay? Being from Oklahoma, I
I
think
know
they're
that.
defunct now.
I
I
think they
think they're
are
not around.
defunct. I
Yeah,
have heard of a Quiznos.
it's like
There
a
are
it's like a
like
Subway.
there are ooh no, there are three Quiznos in my city, and all of them say permanently closed.
Okay,
Don't
yeah, okay.
don't think there are anymore.
Okay, but it was for a while. It was a popular chain here, and I was
Yeah,
just making sure it
Subway
wasn't an
alternative.
Oklahoma thing. Yeah, because being from Oklahoma, that we have like things called like Del Rancho and just really southern stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
never heard of a Del
yeah.
Rancho.
I know. Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah,
we built an app. It was called QuizKnows, but it was spelled like you're doing a quiz, so QUIZ, and then knows was like you like a not
yeah.
acknowledgement, and so QuizKnows, and we did something very similar, but we pulled in all the restaurants, and but we did weights depending on like their answers. It was just like a questionnaire, and what were some of the questions? Do you remember?
I'm actually I pulled up the repository from where it is, and we built this thing 6 years ago. Is how old this thing is. And we built it in Vue. This was back before inertia was a thing, so it's just like raw view files in the
Yeah,
views.
it's nostalgic.
I'm trying to find where the questions are.
So some of the questions we would ask, like weighted questions, it would be like, do you want to dine in or carry out?
Mhm.
And then the next question, and these are, I think the questions are all randomized, and we would just
Yeah,
weight depending
yeah.
on. So it would be like, do you want a salad or French fries with that? So I think I
It was
think we
really
weighed
fun.
that by like fast food or like sit down. Or it wasn't truly like it was definitely opinionated by us. It was like of
For
like
sure.
what we'd yeah. And like another one was like you're stranded on a desert island. Pick
That's what
one
I
item. Here's the items: fishing net, or a giant box of matches, or cold beer, or ice cream. Pick one item. So I guess if we did fishing net, maybe something
it's
seafood.
like yeah,
This
seafood restaurant.
ridiculous
Yeah.
stuff, right?
This was a great little app.
Another question says, "What kind of atmosphere do you prefer? My living room, outdoor seating, the kind I can breathe." I don't even know where we're going with that. The kind I can breathe, or dimly
I
lit
think
dungeons.
I think most of these like answers when we worked at that other agency place, there was three of us in that room. Right? It was you,
Yeah,
me, and then we had another guy with us, Sam Cuban.
Sam.
I
Yeah,
think he was
love
we
Sam.
posted these questions for him, and he'd come up with like the craziest. I think some of these
Yeah,
responses are Sam responses, like, "Hey,
yeah.
we need a question for alcohol. Like, how do we ask somebody if they want to drink alcohol?" And I think
Mm,
Sam came up with the answers of yes, please, hard liquor,
okay.
water only, and then fruity drinks. That
Yeah.
just screams Sam to me.
Well, this one does
You
for
know,
me too. This one's the great Sam example. It says, in terms of spicy, how much of a wimp are you? It says newborn, mild, like in parentheses. Toddler, medium. Adult, hot. The final answer. Independent woman who don't need no man. Open flame.
yeah,
That
I
is
mean that has to come from Sam.
the fact that we showed these questions in an interview
Bro, we
just
got
makes
the
it all.
job. We're
Yeah, we
here because of this app.
because of this app we got our job. This is a good story of like of sharing stuff like this. But with
Is
that web dev
is this
challenge, when I
public?
saw this, it's like, Dalton, you've got to see this. They came up with much better ideas. Ours were just all like you would answer the question and would, depending on the weight of the
Yeah,
result, would display the result, like the local restaurant. But these things were so cool, like an Oregon Trail game, which was kind of similar to what we did of going upon your quest to find your restaurant. But then there was the other one, like you could spin your phone. That would be so cool. And I was kind of
that is
thinking
wild.
like if I wanted to do like a fun app in the future, just I've been really wanting to try the Reverb package by Laravel, and that would be like a fun way to, and just
Mhm.
kind of test that. You can get people to connect and maybe scroll on the phone and or spin do the whole spin thing like they did in the videos, or just something fun to kind of play with those WebSockets. But it kind of got my wheels turning about it'd be kind of cool to revitalize or bring that app back from probably Laravel. It was 2018, so Laravel 5, 4, or 6, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
five,
so
six.
is it
Ooh,
5, 6? Yeah, yeah.
six.
Oh man, back before like the factories. the changed factories. What else is in
Ooh,
file? We don't have components. Like components, I think was one of the best features that come to Laravel in recent years. I can't.
yeah, this app's it's kind of hard on the eyes. I don't know if you have this
Yeah.
public. You should definitely make it public
Oh yeah.
because it's fun definitely to read it. And
Yeah, I'll link it in the show
Sam
notes.
was it designed for sure, and the logo is great. I even think
Hmm.
we had like a social media. I think we had
We
social
did. We
media
had
for it at some
we had a
point,
Twitter account.
and one of the
Yeah.
restaurants like retweeted
Yeah.
something that we did because Sam was friends with that restaurant or something.
Yeah, it was like a very popular. They're like all across the United States now. It's a very popular restaurant chain called AZIP, which is
Agent.
pizza
Hmm.
backwards. Yeah, which I thought was crazy that they retweeted it. So it was just
Yeah,
a fun little project for sure. I love that. But yeah, it got me thinking nostalgic, and I was like, maybe I could do that again with a WebSocket. So just something
and
fun to
now
do while I have this time because I've yet to work with in actually like a professional. I've worked with WebSockets just on the side, and this will be another side project with WebSockets. But I'm waiting. I'm really excited about one day I'll get an actual project that needs WebSockets. So
well, we should
one of the few packages I haven't worked in Laravel. So yeah, it'd be fun. Be fun to get
reverb.
my feet wet.
Oh, yeah, I haven't worked in reverb specific. I've done WebSockets for some freelance stuff. There was like a WordPress connector thing, and they had to pull in WordPress stuff. Long story, but yeah,
Well,
if this isn't
it was
public,
bleeping in my ears when you said the
yeah,
WP
I,
word.
I
Beep.
tuned out myself when I said WordPress. I don't even know where I go with it. If this isn't public, definitely make it public. This repository, and hell, make another branch and just start reworking it. And we'll have Midwest QuizKnows,
Midwest
just
quiz. All the
opinionated by two
Midwest restaurants.
Midwest boys with our
This time will
taste preferences. Because
be some fun games.
honestly, when it comes to like the spice level question, I am a newborn. I cannot do spicy. I am not an independent woman, and I do need that. Don't quote that.
I like I like a little bit of spice, enough for me to continue to enjoy my food. But I definitely I tried the Carolina Reaper once, and oh my gosh, it was just like when I got it, it was with some wings, and they brought milk with it, and that kind of thinking I was like, that milk is usually used to eliminate spices and stuff. I was thinking, I was just like, this is gonna be bad. I was like, but then I got peer pressure to try it. Man, it felt my mouth was on fire.
Ooh. Yeah, especially when they like bring stuff to you and they're wearing gloves, and they're like,
Mm,
"Here's an extra
mm,
pair of
mm,
gloves for you.
mm,
Give me the check. I'm leaving. I'm not eating any of that stuff because I don't want to die.
mhm. My
I'm a
21st
mild boy."
birthday, my 21st birthday, I did a Blazing Wing Challenge, Buffalo Wild Wings, and yeah, I did not drink that night. So because I was close to I was close to a bathroom the
You
entire
you are
evening, and not
worshiping the
for
porcelain
when
throne.
I tell people I was close to a bathroom on my 21st birthday, they think it was from drinking. I'm like, no, it was from
Mm.
the Blazing Wing Challenge at Buffalo Wild Wings. So in here in America, we have this restaurant. People, if listeners, I'm sure people know what Buffalo Wild Wings. If you watch sports, it's on every freaking commercial. But Buffalo Wild
He
Wings, it's
does.
a very popular like chain for wings and sports. They have 100 TVs in there, but they do this challenge. They call it the Blazing Wing Challenge. And they bring out it's just their sauce of blazing wings, and you can't take a drink. So you don't have a drink or anything with it. You get 12 wings, and you have oh man, it's been 10 years since I've done it, but I think it was like 6 minutes to eat them all. And so I did it.
Wait,
I
you
was
finished
definitely with
it?
the under there. Yeah, there was 10 people with me, so I was like, I gotta do this. There was
No
like
way.
sauce all over my face. My eyes were burning because I had sauce in my eyes. That was probably the worst part,
Oh
because I
no.
don't know how I got sauce. I think it was just because I did something like this, and because you have it on your fingers. Oh, it was rough. So yeah, I got through it. I got a shirt. I got a Blazing Wing Challenge shirt. It
Oh
was pretty
boy.
cool. Yeah, yeah, it's just but you don't get you still have to pay for the wings, which was for my birthday, so
Oh,
people
what?
did pay for it. But
Come
yeah, it's
on.
just this thing they offer. Of course, I get peer pressured into doing it. They're like, you've got to do this, like for your birthday, you gotta go all out. I'm like, okay, here we
Boo.
go. It was good.
Well,
It was a good time.
maybe for your next birthday, instead of doing the Blazing Ring Challenge, we'll go do another form of torture, and you can get your Laravel tattoo.
Laravel tattoo. Maybe I turn
Yeah,
40,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
8 years away. Yeah, be good.
Oh, don't say anything. I'm in the 30s now too, and I don't.
Oh
It'll make me
man.
feel old.
Yeah, someone shared something earlier about like it being closer to like you're closer now to like 40 than you were to like, 21 or something. I forget the exact thing, but it's just like made me feel like super old. Like, man, we're getting up there. Great.
Get those crow's
Yeah.
feet eyes.
Uh,
They're gonna start
yeah.
coming in soon.
Yeah.
That's
So,
off the old time. I don't want to feel old. I already feel old. My
all
knees
right.
suck.
Yeah. All right, man. It's been good. Should we wrap it?
Let's wrap it here.
All right. Yeah, awesome, man. You've been listening to another episode of The Midwest Artisan. You can find us on social media and all the different types of social media wherever it can be found. If you like the show, give us a shout or just reach out. If you've been listening this far, we're sorry or thank you. I don't know, one or
Thank
the
you.
other.
I
But
guess.
thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.